Hello, my name is Peter Cinnamon and you're very welcome to this. It's a podcast and it's all about the Irish League. With the Irish Cup semi-finals now in the books, it's time to look ahead to the true final stretch of the season and the split. Linfield are champions and there's only a couple of questions still remaining between now and the end of the campaign. Who will snatch second? Who will secure seventh? Is there any hope for a Loughgall Great Escape? And with Linfield winning the title so early, was this in fact a down year quality-wise for the Irish League, as some pundits have suggested? Hopefully I've got someone qualified to help answer that conundrum on your latest weekly edition of Kick a Match. Despite spending about 120-something episodes talking with a variety of guests, we've never really truly answered, out of all of them, talking about football, who in fact is probably the best person actually at the game of playing football. After this week, you'll not have to ask that question, as I'm pretty sure this nails it down, as my guest this week is a former manager of Carrick Rangers and Banbridge Town, and he's in fact a former winner of this Irish League that we talk about so much. It's great to welcome into the podcast. Hello, Stuart King.
Hi, Peter. How are you? How's things?
I'm doing well. Have you enjoyed that weather like many of us had? Would it be amazing if there was a way of playing a majority of the league schedule where it was good weather outside?
It would be unreal, wouldn't it? You get away from them October, November, January, February months, you know what I mean? Brutal, but yeah, the weather at the moment's superb, and listen, the nights are great now, aren't they? The extra hour.
It's that weekend in the year where there's not as many games out there, but there's a greater focus on it. Irish Cup semi-final weekend. It was, could the two teams from North Down in the championship rise to the occasion and knock out their Premiership opponents? They didn't in the end, and we've got a Cliftonville Dungannon final coming our way. Starting with the game on Friday night, you know, I think Ards were the biggest underdogs amongst the lot. You know, they had kicked out a few top flight teams on their way to the semi-finals, and despite Cliftonville not having a particularly sterling season themselves, they just showed the difference in class at Windsor Park.
First off, John Bailey, what a job he's done. No, he's got that Ards team in the top six. There's been a massive improvement again this year, and to get the semi-final of Irish Cup's a massive achievement first and foremost. He's done remarkably well. The Cliftonville are class above. They've got real top quality players who are probably in the mix to be the best players in the Irish League, and on their day they can beat anybody. So listen, I think Condy Windsor didn't help them. It didn't help ours at all. I think the big pitch would suit Cliftonville a lot better. And listen, Cliftonville were just a wee class apart, to be honest with you. But listen, all credit the Orange. They get the semi-final as a remarkable achievement, and they should take massive credit from that.
Cliftonville have actually an excellent record down there at Windsor Park over the past few seasons, not just there on Saturday, but they were able to take out Glentoran across 90 minutes in extra time. That last year semi-final against Larne, I thought that was the first time where you saw Larne bleed. We saw Cliftonville really do a number on them, tactically as well as from a game plan point of view, and they exploited that space and at times took Ards apart. Some great moments for Joe Gormley, but as well for Mr. Hale. Some excellent football from him and 2 assists on the night.
The two players you've spoken about there, they've been there, they've done it, they've read the book, and they've just took teams apart. Never mind Ards. No, I think Joe's class act. He's always been a class act. He's just a model professional. Mr. Cliftonville, his goal scoring record is ridiculous, and he's took his goal so well in the first 20 minutes of the game, which basically knocks the stuff and clean out Ards. Rory Hill, what more can we say about him? He just stands out. He stands out every time I've watched him this year. Every time I've done a commentary game on him, he's been in control. He sets the tone for the team. Obviously, they're both fans' favourites, but I think he just leads from the front. I think his whole demeanour on the pitch, his quality on the ball, he dictates games of football, and he's really creative, which is probably takes him to another level than some of the other players in the league who are really fans' favourites or leaders for their certain clubs. But I think Hale has a wee bit of quality where he can open up defences, and I think that's makes a difference with him.
I've been frustrated watching him with Cliftonville in recent weeks because he's had to drop back at times to try and pick out players. And really, if you want to use Hale to the best of his ability, it's getting him higher up the pitch so he is the man providing that final killer ball. He can find the net as well. But number of goals to talk about. I think ours will probably, let's forget the last one, which was late in the game, mistake from Mir in the goal. First one, it's that heel Gormley connection, dink ball over, and Joe didn't need to run on. He just thumped it with his right boot. We've seen that numerous times at Windsor.
Yeah, he just buries it. No, there's actually no doubt in my mind that that was going where I was going. You're talking about Ronan Hill and having to drop. I think that Ronan Dartley leaving the football club. That's why Ronan's done that. I think he's trying to take that, trying to affect the game as much as he can. When he has a player who dictates the play and keeps control of the ball behind him, he can then be more influential on higher ends of the pitch. I think when he's been dropping is because obviously Doherty's moved on to Korean and he's trying to lead his team and he's trying to do his best for his team. I think that's the reason why that's happened. But yeah, listen, the ball goes over the top. There's only one place that's going to end up. Absolutely clinical, typical Joe, and like I said, it knocked the stuff in the arch.
Do you have sympathy for Jim? I even joke here that you can't not talk about Cliftonville this year without the three striker exodus. He's had to try and make that work with a slightly higher expectation from fans coming off the high of the final. Europe wasn't great for them last year. Some might see them as favourites going into the final and getting another go at it. It's going to be a big summer for them recruitment wise, isn't it?
Listen, when you're successful, you're going to attract people. You know, people are going to attract attention if they're doing well and they're successful. I think Clifton aren't in a place where they can hold on to their best players at the moment. That's just my opinion. I think Jim's done remarkably well in playing it down to a degree. I think every fan who's realistic understands you can't take them goals or them players out of your team and expect to do as well as you can because they were so influential on the team last year. Yeah, it is a big summer for them. There's things happening in the background with Clifton, but I think if Clifton, I know their league form's been average, if that's being nice about it. I think Jim would admit that. But I think if they win the Irish Cup, I think they've done okay and they'll be quite content with that and then push on for next year.
We all know you spent a fair bit of time sitting there in the dugout of a top flight team, having to deal with these transfer windows. From a fan's perspective, we would look at our club, if they are a top flight team, and see the players that they sign in two buckets. And one would be Irish League, where you're either taking on maybe a player from another team who is hoping to get better, maybe get a bit of game time, or a player from lower in the divisions that you hope are going to have the potential to push on. And then you have the player you've never heard of coming back from England, Scotland, or maybe a different league where you don't know if they're going to be the next club legend or if they're going to play a couple of games at the start of the season and then they're gone, you never hear of them. Oftentimes that second tranche of players are the ones that have the higher chance to push on and become great. Like we were talking about Hale there, that's kind of where they come. It's that filtering down. If you're Cliftonville and the way the past 12 months of their transfers is gone, do you think if your Jim is he thinking, right, I need to start looking in this league, maybe who are the next gems, or hey, Mr. Chairman, get your money out because we can't have the season we need before, we need player X who's doing good but isn't going to be cheap?
I think the bigger the club you are, the more chances you can take. And that's my opinion. I think if you're at a smaller club, and listen, I think Club was a big club. I think that if you're a smaller club, you gotta really stay with it, tried and tested. I think when you're taking chances, you're taking a lot of chances with your job, with your club, with security, things like that there. If you're like a club, you give young professionals a platform. I think Jim's done really well in that. I think you have to trust a lot of people when you're doing things like that. Obviously, when I was manager, I'll talk about myself. When I was manager, I knew everybody in the Irish League, knew every single player in the Championship, etc., etc. When you don't know players from say Division One, First Division down south, or young players in England, you're having to rely on a lot of opinions, and you're the ones going to be judging them. And I think that's the difference. I think Jim has obviously worked with a hell of a lot of people across the water. He knows a hell of a lot of people. He trusts a lot of people. But I think they've done well. Him and Skin have done well. No Jared Little, they've done really well in their recruitment. But I do think that they do need to get one or two real high profile players from Irish League. They kick on and get over the line, i.e., win a league title.
We're here in the early days, hours of April. Realistically, Stuart, how much of the business is done and how much business is already set up in motion at this stage?
Quite a lot, but you don't know what's around the corner. Unless someone signs a bit of paper, there's times where I think I've signed players and you think it's done and it hasn't been signed, and you go away thinking it's done, and then lastminute.com they've moved on or they've signed for somebody else. So a lot of talking has probably been done, a lot of meetings, a lot of things goes on in the background, especially boys who are out of contract end of the season. A lot of that's done, and you just got to build. I think a lot of your decisions are already made on your squad that you have in April. I think come and turn of January, I think you've got to make decisions prior to that, because obviously you don't want your players running out of contract. So I think by the time April's done, I think a lot of decisions regarding your squad and where you think you need to recruit has already been done by this stage.
Going to the other semi-final, felt a lot closer game at Seaview on Saturday evening. Who would have thought going into an Irish Cup final between a top six side and a bottom six side, it would be the Swifts who would be the top six side. They got their goal in the first half. Nice run by Mitchell, and then unfortunately for Owens, he isn't able to get it out of danger and knocks it into the back of the net. Bangor come out in the second half and really give Dungannon a good going, but as much as they huffed and they puffed, it was from a set piece. Curry getting the header from the corner to seal the deal with only minutes on the clock. This could be a top flight fixture in just a couple of months' time. I think Bangor have a lot to be proud of, especially considering the fact that they were without Solis Grogan in nets, and I think Robbie Garrett on that type of occasion, he would have been a huge boost for that side.
Lee Feeney and everybody at Bangor, including the board, deserve massive credit. I think they've been outstanding. I think you'll be really disappointed with the goals they give away. I think Kyle, who's been outstanding for Bangor this year, could have dealt better with the first goal. And I think Bangor have such a big presence that they'll be gutted with the second goal, because obviously Dean Curry's got a free header in the box, which shouldn't happen, to be honest with you.
It's poor defending, at that time of the game. You need to keep alert, and they weren't.
Exactly, and I think, if I'm being honest, I think Bangor, and I spoke to Lee during the week prior to the game, I think that they showed Dungannon too much respect first half. I think they let them keep the ball too much. I think Gail Bigorama just controlled the whole game first half, and he had no pressure. But to be fair to Lee and his staff, they've seen it and they've dealt with it. And they went and pressed right from the front, and it didn't give people any time on the ball second half, and they just actually peppered them, if that's the right word. They put loads of pressure on them, they put balls in the box, and Dungannon looked uncomfortable for the first time in a while that I've seen Dungannon look really uncomfortable, and that's all credit they Bangor. But when they're pushing them, they give away the per second goal. But as I said about Ards, a championship team, they've done tremendously well to get the semi-final cup. Obviously, they've had the big quarter-final where they beat Glentoran, but their priority now to get in the Premier League, and I genuinely believe they'll do that.
Conditions weren't great, very, very windy. Bangor aren't over the line yet, but they're looking good, and if they do get up, history says that a majority of that squad will stay, plus additions. Was there any names that impressed you on Saturday? For me, a player who's bounced around a couple of clubs, never truly found a home, and from an outsider I've always thought, what is it about this player that people keep giving a chance to? It was a good day for O'Mahony for me on the wing.
Yeah, he looked sharp. He looked like he really wanted it. I thought he was good in the ball, but his harassment of the Dungannon's defence in the second half, I think that's the right word I'm going to use. I think he was really, really sharp, and he looked like he can play at a higher level, definitely, and he has done previously. I think Reece Nee was very good too at left back. I think he was aggressive. No, I've seen that Dungannon forward lane, rip Premiership teams apart. No, and I think he was really sharp. He looked really aggressive. He didn't give people time on the ball, and his quality when he had the ball was really good. And it's somebody who was a Carrick just before I came to the club, and he's played at the Premier League level too. But generally, I think them boys will be needed next year. I think that if they do get the Premier League, I think Lee's going to have to rely on guys who have experience. They try and get them through games.
MacArthur's a tricky player as well. I've seen him a few times. He is diminutive, as you would say. Doesn't have the same frame as his very similar namesake does, but he could. There was a few times where if he just got the ball out from his feet, Bangor could have been very close and then on goal.
Yeah, definitely. And listen, it's exciting for Bangor fans. They came in their numbers. It's an exciting time for the football club. It's exciting times for Lee as a manager now because he's going to be hopefully potentially he's going to be a Premier League manager, and he fully deserves it. He's earned his stripes if that's the right way of going. He's went from Bamridge Rangers through to Bangor, and then now he's potentially now going to be a Premier League manager. So listen, he's done fantastically well, and he deserves all the credit he gets.
Returning back to Dungannon, Manager of the Year in waiting, Rodney McAree, just adds more to this amazing season for the Swifts. They're in the final. They have still got a chance of getting directly into Europe through being in the top half of the split. I don't know how much you still feel this can be a bit of a copycat league, but what do you think other teams, when they look at this Swift success, what are they learning? What are they going to try and steal to try and repeat that success? Is it how the Swifts have played? Is it by some of the transfer decisions that they made? Because they look on the pitch, when you see them, they're oftentimes a very attractive team to watch when you're a neutral.
They've kicked on from last year. So last year, when the split happened, they were on the bottom six with Carrick when I was manager at Carrick, and they won all 5 of their games in the split last year, and just carried that through. I think a 3G pitch has looked after his recruitment. I think he's purposely went on ball playing midfielder, so you like to get on the ball. He's went with pace up top with a presence in Andrew Mitchell. I think there's a lot of people at Dungannon don't get like. I'll give you an example. Dean Curry does not get the credit he deserves. I think he's been outstanding. I think he's been. There are not many left-footed centre halves to start with, but I tell you what, he's a leader. He heads everything comes his way. He's also scored goals. Obviously, he scored a goal on Friday on Saturday night. But generally, Deggy Dunn doesn't get the credit he deserves either. He's had a fantastic season, but I think his recruitment's been really good. I think they've got a squad now that can. They've got players that can affect the game. They like to keep the ball. They like to keep possession of the ball, but also when they are under pressure, they like to turn defences, and the pace then gets them out. So yeah, he deserves massive credit. He's been absolutely outstanding. He's an absolute gentleman. I've done lots of their games and the commentating on those games, and they've been a joy to watch. And some of their possession-based football has been absolutely outstanding.
Without knowing the details, do you think the biggest job for Rodney this summer, if we're looking ahead to the transfer window once again, is trying to keep this team together? There's a chance he'll be looking at his men saying, stick with us, we'll be going to Latvia or Lithuania or whatever if they were to return to Europe. And how much that really keeps the players locked in, I don't know. But is that going to be his biggest task now, is saying to these players, I appreciate, because they've always been a team that the top sides in this league have looked at, because they've oftentimes created great young talent that have headlined some of the best sides over the past 2 decades. How will he keep this project together? Or, as you mentioned with Cliftonville, that's just going to be the nature of a team in the middle of a division?
I think if they qualify for Europe, it'll be a massive help for them. I think bigger teams. I think if you're a young footballer, you may have aspirations to be a full-time player. Dungannon aren't at that stage at the moment. So I think you look at Ethan McGee, who's went to Linfield, and how successful he's been, and what he's achieved since he's left Dungannon, where he was a star performer for Dungannon a couple of years ago. There's a lot of players that went across the water from Dungannon who've been really successful. When they have full-time careers. Listen, that's like you said, it's the nature of the beast. I'm sure Rodney's well aware of who he's after his players, or or who he's in discussions with at the moment. But there's not he can't affect. He can try and get players to sign contracts, but he can't affect no other clubs coming in bidding for his players. That's being a manager at a smaller Premier League team. What he's got a real group, the real seem to have a real good team spirit. They all seem to be fighting like hell for each other, and I think if you get into Europe, I think they might want to take that for another year and see where it goes. But you never know what's around the corner. You never know who's after the best players, who's after the best young players. If it's here or potentially across the water, which has happened in the past, and then obviously that comes with transfer fees and stuff like that, which is going to help the club out even more. So listen, when you're successful, like I say, people will come calling because obviously everybody wants to get better and bigger. But if you have your own aspirations, then if you want to be successful and succeed, then maybe that's a big maybe. Maybe other places might be a better proposition for yourself, including Rodney, by the way, including Rodney.
Of course, he's been in there. He has been in the back room of full-time teams, trying to keep on to him as well. Will be all a part of it. I know he has those family ties, but he is a young man of 50 or so there's plenty of years of him managing football teams. McGovern must be a project that they'll stick on the board and say, this is what this club can do. Because no doubt, and I can name them maybe in the championship or a team lower in the top flight, where if you're a young player like McGovern who has potential and there's lots of hype, he had a decision to make in the summer. I don't know what deals were on the table, but I'm sure there could have been plenty of top six teams. I know Dungannon are in there, but traditional top six teams who said, come on board, you can be one of three and you can work yourself in, work hard, and then sure, if it works out here, boom, you never know where it could go. But he took the route of Dungannon and he's become the main man, and for my eyes, argument he could be in, if you were to put together a team of the season, he has a good,
he's got a good chance to get in it.
A good resume to say. Yeah, just to say that. So if you're, let's create player A here, and it's like, do you want to sit on the bench, see how it goes, a top flight team, or go to a team like Dungannon? There's a chance to say Dungannon's a spot for a season or two, because we've even seen in the past few years the likes of Oisin Smith, who went directly from Dungannon. They can be a launch pad. It's not the same time where you need to be Linfield's top striker if you're going to get a move.
I think Dungannon need massive credit for this, because I think, like you say, every club probably was looking at John Montgomery. I think the issue with John was that he had a real bad injury the year before he went to Dungannon, and Dungannon took a chance. I'm sure. I think I can say as Carrick manager, then everybody looked at him, including ourselves. But Dungannon actually jumped at it. They made a decision to try and sign him, knowing rightly that he was injured for most of the season previously with Newry. And it's paid off massively. He's been fantastic. He's been really, really sharp. Especially in the last few months, he's really seemed to have stood out even more in the last few months. And yeah, this in their build-up play, he's getting plenty of the ball because they're really good in possession, but he has a real threat and behind pace-wise. So, and he's finishing everything. Everything seems to be going the back of the net. He looks so sharp. And yeah, it's a massive thing. You talk about Oisin Smith, Dungannon give him the platform to go and have the career he's having now. That's a massive selling point. If you're a young player and you want to speak to Rodney, or you're going to go and speak to our manager, what have you done previously for young players? What have you done? Where have they gone to? And if you've got someone who's done that and now he's a full international, then it's a massive selling point, because Joe McGovern was an under 21 international, I think, prior to going to Dungannon. I think his game now has stepped up big style. I think he's really improved in the last year, and that may be due to Rodney and his coaches, or maybe because he's playing in a better team. I'm not sure, but he's had one real good full season now, and he's going to have to back it up because everyone's talking about him.
As a former winger, Stuart, we've seen this player who had played wide forward, maybe a traditional winger at times, move into being, got number 9 on the back of his shirt, and that's the way he's played, at least positionally this season. Could you have foreseen that move for him?
Yeah, I could have done, because when he's at Newry, he usually drifted in all the time, especially when the ball's on the other side. And we used to always talk about his movement, from coming from out the in and supporting it nearly single centre forward at the time. So yeah, I did see it happening. I think that's a real asset to his game where he can come in off the wing and play high. But now he's playing up top, and he's a strong boy. I'm not sure if he's got a Gaelic background or not, but he can hold the ball up. His presence is so good compared to other people. You know what I mean? And sometimes when you're that strong, you don't have the pace. But I tell you, he certainly does.
And as you are a previous alum of the Wingers Union, I have to ask this. Maybe it's just what I've seen myself, and I'm totally getting this wrong. Where are all the wingers in the Irish League? What's happened to them? Are they all now being pushed back to being these speedy wing backs? Are they all maybe being funneled into being strikers? You know, you're a man who's spent many years putting these X and O's together. Is it a position that's being coached out of the game? Where are they all?
It's dying. It kills me. It absolutely kills me. Listen, it's so the Irish League's so possession based now. There's no out and out wingers. They don't go and get at fullbacks. Previously, when I played, centre midfielders pinged the ball out, and you were told to get one on one with your fullback and beat the fullback and cross the ball. Very rarely it does now. It's keep ball, it's possession based football. Far too nice at times where I want real people to be really aggressive, not only in their defending but also in attacking, like getting at people and getting 1v1s. That's the ones the fans love. The fans love out and out wingers, out and out forward players who get at defenders, beat defenders, and score goals. No, there's not many of them about it at the moment. And I think you're right. I think I'm not saying it's being coached out of them, but I think that people are scared now to make mistakes a lot more. No, if you're a white player and you're really getting at people and creating opportunities, I think that's a big plus. But I think people now are scared, and some clubs are scared to lose possession of the ball so much because our teams are so possession based that, like I say, they're afraid they make mistakes, which isn't great.
Are they a luxury that only the top teams can have? The question is, where are you going to get them if no one's developing down the leagues for you? We are coming to the end of the season where by a couple of country miles, the best player is Joel Cooper, who, would you still call him a winger? He's not really played there, but that's his heritage, that's his background.
Yeah, I still think the best winger in the league, Kirk Miller. I think and he doesn't beat men very rarely.
But he's been pushed out to being sometimes a wing back, sometimes a
Yeah,
high wing back.
that's formations. That's David's formations. But if you're talking about an out-and-out winger who crosses balls and centre forwards can feed off it, then Kirk Miller, you'll not beat a better crosser of the ball in the league. But like beating a man, yeah, you're probably talking about Joel Cooper, but Joel Cooper basically plays everywhere he wants. You know what I mean? So, yeah, out and out white players, there's not many.
And is that, as you said, it's just trends? Is it the nature of where if you're a team in the bottom half of the division, you're playing half your games against teams where you aren't the favourite, and the other games, it's a game where you can't really afford to lose?
Wingers can be really effective in other ways, not only in beating men and crossing balls through. If you've got a wide player, if you're under the caution, you've got a wide player who's going to carry the ball 60, 70 yards up the pitch, centre halves will love them because it takes the pressure off them. And generally, I signed a young guy called James Taylor last year on one, and he done that so effectively for us last year, where he's able to pick a ball up and run 60, 70 yards up the pitch. And our defence loved him because when we were under the cosh, he took the pressure off us by winning free kicks or winning throw-ins 60, 70 yards away from our goal, which was so effective for us. But that's where you have to be really clever in your recruitment and try and get the right players in.
Just finishing off there, that we know our final in the Irish Cup, number of weeks to go. We'll see how both sides approach these games that they've still got to play. You have Cliftonville, who are defending champs, got a bit of a good head of steam, know what it's like now in finals. And then you've got Dungannon, the upstarts, who will show no fear, nothing to lose, and very much have a hoodoo over Cliftonville in recent times.
Yes, it's a great game. It is a great game. Like two teams that like to get on the ball. They've got goal scorers in both teams, and it'll be a really good occasion. And Jim's been there and done it. You know what I mean? Rodney then now has to go and try and take the mantle off Jim, and it's set it up really, really, really well. And I'm actually really excited to see that.
It's gonna be a game where it might be, especially if there's an early goal, it might be one of the best finals that we've seen in a fair good whack.
There's so many winners, and there's so many people who can win games of football in both teams are that it's I can see it being a possession based game. I can see people keeping control of the ball, but I can see bits of quality that are going to be goals in the game, and I'm swaying towards Cliftonville before just because of the being there and done it, and they're so good in a one off occasion.
So we've talked over the past few weeks. Linfield, they're champions between now and the end of the season. It's just going to be a big long celebration, a procession of Gibson returning to Windsor Park. They've announced a couple of games that will be broadcast. One of them being Linfield Glentoran at Windsor Park. It's an earlier kickoff time, and that's when they're going to receive the trophy. I mean, when you win it, you can make calls like that, can't you?
Yeah, listen, that Linfield deserve every plaudit they get, and they can milk it as much as they want. You know what I mean? Fair play. No, to be 22 points ahead of everybody before the split is just absolutely ridiculous. It's going to be a massive occasion. They're against their biggest rivals. No, there'll probably not be a seat left in the house. They're going to really milk it, and listen, they deserve it. They've been absolutely outstanding.
It won't be the first home game that they've played since the split, and it won't be the last one for the end of the season. So they've made their call. Early kickoff time as well, 1 o'clock, and that will be streamed online. Now that we all have fermented and we've sat with Linfield being champions, and look, they stepped up and they beat Dungannon last Monday night, which we couldn't cover on the podcast. Some people have suggested, and it's been talked about within the media, that perhaps this season of Irish League football isn't really one of the classics, and that perhaps the standard of the league as a whole isn't as good as other terms. I posted about this online over the weekend, and I got a lot of responses. As someone who played in the league during the early part of this century and then has managed in recent times, where do you see the standard of the league? I'm very much in the camp that perhaps we are at a situation where the Irish League is at the real apex that it's been, and I'm talking from player fitness, the technical quality of players, even the managerial acumen is at a much higher level. The stadiums haven't changed much, but we'll not get into that part of it. Where do you feel it is? Perhaps this might be a down year, definitely in other teams challenging at the top end, but where is Irish League football in 2025 compared to previous years?
Right, I'll say this before we start. I think my Linfield team would beat the Linfield team now, right? I'll say that. I'll say that first off, but no, generally, I think
And,
the
and
league.
and to remind people who was in that team, you had Thompson, you had Ferguson up top.
No Bailey, Winky Murphy, you had Glenn Ferguson. You know what I mean? You could go through the whole team and listen, they're all class as legends. But that's an opinion. But what I say that I don't get people saying the standards dropped. I think it's more professional. I think the difference between what people it's more professional, it's more dedicated. I think it's more control based games with the ball. I think it's not the old blood and thunder that everybody used to love, where people were locking the ball long and being really aggressive. And I think teams are now more acute. I think managers are all full time near enough now. I think there's a hell of a lot of full time managers. I think the players that have come into the league from across the water, there's a lot more better players coming in. I think the quality's definitely there or improved, but I think now that there hasn't been as many goals this year. I think it hasn't been competitive at the top of the league, and I think that's why people are coming out with this. I think it's nonsense. I think you take away Linfield, it's been so competitive between second and 10th, and I think everybody is as good as each other on their day. I think Linfield's just been so consistent, and I think that's why people are saying teams have not been to their levels. There has been excuses for that. You know, the two behind. The top three last year, Linfield, Cliftonville, and Lorne. Lorne done something that no other club in this country's ever done this year. No, which is massive credit to them. Cliftonville's, like we've talked about, has lost three of their best players. No, you can't cope with that. No, if they're so dominant in their team. No, it doesn't matter who you have. Is it? You can try and recruit, you try and bring in whoever you want. But if you lose three of your best players, then you're not going to be as good as you were last year. But what I will say is that Linfield's just been totally consistent, and I don't believe the quality's died. I think it's just that one team has been really consistent, the rest of them haven't, and that's just been it. And yeah, goal wise, we're down in goals and stuff like that. But I think that's because the teams aren't more direct anymore. They like to keep a ball. I think I don't know what the stats are, but I think if you look at stats wise for possession on teams, I think that the possession on teams would be a lot more than what they would be in the last 4, 5, 6 years prior to this year, because the teams like to keep the ball up more this year.
As someone who's coached a team and a club to their highest ever finish within the league in Carrick, I mean, when you're running those training sessions, how different would a Carrick Rangers 2024 training session look for the expectations you have on players and the preparation you have tactically in the lead up to a game compared to, let's say, when you were with Ballymena in 2008, Linfield in 2004? Is it night and day? Or is it still just very similar? It's all football. It's about fitness and game practice.
That's a brilliant question. That is really, listen, fair play here, mate. Um, yeah, and this is no disrespect to my previous coaches or managers, because the game's moved on. And in my opinion, no, I think what young coaches do now, they're not reinventing the wheel. Let's be honest about it. But I tell you what, their quality of their sessions are so good compared to what they were previously. I think the intensity, and that all leads into professionalism and people who've come from a professional background coming in the R League. I think they expect it. And if you don't have that, you're never going to survive. If you can't coach a team and make them better, you have no chance. That's my honest opinion. I think the quality of sessions are miles better. I think players can't go through the motions anymore. If they do, they'll get found out. I think that's up to the coaches and their quality of their sessions and their tactical awareness. Like I say, when we finish a game on a Saturday night, I'm sitting with and I used to hate saying this, but I used to sit with the iPad out. I didn't like coaches with iPads, and you're just analysing games and trying to find weaknesses in opposition to try and exploit them. To try and put on sections on the Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday night to try and win the following Saturday's game. And it's just 24/7. And that's the first time someone's ever asked me that question, mate. But I do believe the quality in the sessions and the awareness of people's strengths and weaknesses are the difference between the top managers and the top coaches and the ones that aren't.
And if you think the coachings went up a standard in how you approached games, is that the same for the players taking things more seriously, from their fitness to their nutrition to their tactical approach, than you recall maybe 15 years ago?
Yeah, without doubt. Absolute. That's night and day. That's absolute night and day. No, we used to win a game on a Saturday. We were straight out on a Saturday night. Now players don't like. Don't be wrong. They all love a beer, some or love a night out. Or I think that's a massive part. I think that helps with the bonding in the change room. I think that's huge as well. But I think it's really just the whole pre-match, after-match, the whole looking after yourself out of season, the whole doing your own extra bits, pieces, your own nutrition, your own gym work, your own strength conditioning, everything. It's miles compared to what we had back in the day when you used to be a gym and you're sent to the gym and done your own wee bit. Now you've so much. Now you've got to log all your sessions. Everything goes online. Your coaches and staff can see everything. No, your analyst goes and looks at all your sessions 24/7. Who's been doing what? Who's not doing it? Who's not hitting certain levels? And then you can use that to speak to players and ask them where they are, what they're doing, or why they're not hitting the standards. Listen, there's players that can work both ways. There's players that are awful in training, but they perform on a Saturday, and that's where you're judged. No, that's fans or boards or media or media members of the public do not judge what they do on a Saturday, what goes on behind the scenes. They judge you on getting a result, getting 3 points on a Saturday. So listen, as managers or not coaches, not the extent, but as managers, you've got to find a happy balance of pushing them to get to their highest level they can get to, but also play it so you're not pushing them too hard so they can't perform on a Saturday.
And who has ushered in that change? Has it been the top players led from example, because they needed this preparation to be at the level that they were? It all trickled down. Players realize, well, I'm going to have to do this. I'm going to have to weigh my berries. I'm going to have to get in that extra gym session and maybe give up a night out with my friends because that's going to impact me a few days down the line. Was it that? Was it the coaches pushing it? Or is it a change of mindset from perhaps younger players where I think even 15 years ago, there wasn't the real belief and thought that if I do well here, I can go back or I can push on to full-time football here, down south, in English or Scottish leagues. Where now, if you do the business now and you perform, there is a real chance where that can happen more than there ever was.
I think the rewards are massive. I think, listen, if you are really dedicated, and listen, I can talk from personal experience. If I see a player game improve massively because they're doing extra, then I'll do it if I want to be at the top level. I think if I see a coach learning and doing more learning and visiting more clubs and learning off others and they're becoming better, I'll go and do it. I think that's a personal thing. I think you have to have it in you to be like that. But I think there's a lot more boys like that now, a lot more professional, a lot more want to do more, want to do better. The rewards are huge. No, absolutely huge for everybody now in football. If you're really successful, you'll do really well. But I think you have to put in the hard work. I think as a coach, I learned off someone who was an absolute workaholic, and they done everything they could to be successful, and that's where I got my work ethic from. I think in all aspects of life, if you don't work hard, you're not going to get anywhere. And I think that's same as players. If you put in the effort, your game will improve. If you have more touches of the ball, your touch will get better. It's not rocket science. The more times you practice, the better you'll be. And it's repetition and having pictures in your head prior to going out in full pitch. Because if you're doing it constantly, it'll come naturally on a Saturday. And um, yeah, I think where it's come from is that there's a lot more people now are in the league that are doing it, and if you don't do it, you're going to be left behind.
Who was that boss?
Moisey, David Moyes.
He still has that influence on you to this day.
Yeah, to this day, he was 24/7. He was remarkable. When I was first became a professional, he was my manager, and he had me out personally doing extra every afternoon, and yeah, I seen I knew he was going to be the top level coach, and he was going to get probably the biggest club in the world, Man United, and yeah, he's it's because he really wanted it, and he never stopped.
We spoke there about the transfers that are ahead of us with the window only weeks and months away. I spoke about how there's going to be a flood of new names that have never played in the Irish League or returning to the Irish League after a time in England, Scotland, or wherever where it didn't work out to the standard they wanted to be, and they'll be looking to reset their career to push on if it all goes well. You were in that boat 25, 24 years ago. As a player, as a young man, how did you come to that decision to return to the Irish League with Linfield? Was it difficult, and what was your mindset going into it? How did you approach dropping down a level, if we're being frank, and continuing on a career which at that point during your teenage years you had dreams of FA Cup finals and everything like that, as I'm sure every young footballer has and does?
At the time, it was really hard. I can look back now and think I done all right. You know what I mean? I wasn't good enough. Let's be honest about it. I was on a month-to-month contract at Southend at the time, and I got a phone call to come home. That I fancy coming home to Linfield Football Club, and um, I jumped at it. I know
When you say you're not good enough
yeah,
at the time and you made that
yeah.
call, How do you come to that?
because
Do you feel
I
like
wasn't playing.
everyone's fitter than me? Is it just a talent that you couldn't get to the standard to? What?
No, so I was at Preston where we went from basically League One whole way to the Championship playoff game with Bolton to get in the Premier League. I wasn't in that. I didn't make that squad. No, I was in the squad for majority of the previous years prior to that, going through the leagues. We got so strong that I was left behind. No, because they became bigger and they really buy players who were internationals and things like that. Where I was a young professional, so then I had to go out and try and get a career somewhere else. So I'm at the Oldham on a month to month with John Sheridan. It wasn't enjoyable. I can say that. I wasn't getting a look in. I went to Southend, which was slightly better, but I had no security. I know I was 21, 22, I think, at that stage. I went over to 15. And I had no security, and I felt that I needed a bit of security and maybe an arm around me or whatever. And I wanted to play week in, week out. I didn't want to do the rounds anymore. And it just came to a point where I thought, listen, I'm not getting a game here at Southend in League One or League Two or whatever it was at the time. So I thought, listen, I'll get my head down. I'm still involved with the junior international, youth internationals, whatever, 21s, whatever. Let's get the head down. Let's play for the biggest club. Let's try and get um, win trophies and see where it takes me. And thankfully, it went really well. Like, listen, there's lots of guys come home and they're not up for the fight. I certainly was. I wasn't going to let my career drop. A lot of people come back and find it really tough, and I understand that because, listen, I went from being a professional footballer, earning respectable money as a young 21-year-old lad, to opening up my dad's shop, my dad's mate's shop at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then going to training from Londonderry to Belfast 3 or 4 nights a week. So it was a total reality check for me, but I had the motivation that I still believe that I could be successful, and thankfully it went okay.
And do you think, because we've seen players come back and you can see they have the skill and ability, but perhaps not that motivation or the fight. For you coming back, did it make you, did it push you to try and fight even harder, or what was it like that kept you going, that made you go on and win all those championships with Linfield and beyond?
I knew no different. I just wanted to be a footballer. I think, and yes, I had 5 years in England or whatever, but I had a father who wouldn't let me get away with murder, if that's the nicest way about it. No, he made me do the extra, but I genuinely wanted to. No, I wanted to be there. I wanted to win things. I wanted to be successful. No, I understand it's so hard. No, I understand why so many don't come back and they fall away, and I understand how hard that can be. And listen, I wasn't the best player in the world at all. No, I there was a lot better than me that came home. There was a lot better went across the water from here before I went away as well, by the way. And they came home a long time before I did. But it's just I had a strong mentality that nothing was going to stop me. And listen, I was at Linfield within 2 years. I think Big Davy put me in the transfer list, but then I ended up staying another 3 or 4 years after that. You know what I mean? I'll prove you wrong. It's just the way I am. It's the way I'm built. But yeah, it's not easy. It's not no. Like I say, I went from I went from being a professional footballer to laying out papers in my dad's mate's local shop, and getting up at stupid clock every morning to do that just to earn a few coins so I could go and play football for Linfield. You know, and that's just what was in me. And like I say again, you know, within a year I won the Irish Cup. Within 2 years I won the league. So um, yeah, thankfully it went well.
Was it the love of the game that kept you pushing on, or was it honors? Maybe the paycheck helped as well.
What pushed me was that I didn't want to fail. Did not want to fail. I wanted to be a footballer. I still had aspirations, as you said, to go back across the water again. No, I, I genuinely believed that I had half a chance. It didn't work out for one reason or another, but listen, I would never change what's happened. You know, I've been so fortunate and so lucky that I played in some amazing teams that basically won me leagues. Never mind me playing in them. You know, there's players that carried me for 4 or 5 years that Olympic team. So um, yeah, I've been so fortunate. I played with some of the best players ever to play the Irish League. and that's not trying to hide behind anything. They definitely are, especially in the 25 years I've been involved in the Irish League. And yeah, I've been really fortunate.
You spoke there about players who came back, you being in the same boat. Sometimes motivation's lacking. It's just the shock of the league. When you were a manager, and you obviously still have ambitions to return to a dugout in the current Irish League in top flight, what was the hardest part about managing a group of men? Is it who are part time? Was it discipline? Was it motivation? Or was it just getting the tactical, get every drop out of them as players? What was the hardest part of the job?
I think when I was manager at Carrick, I think my biggest issue was trying to get everybody fit and available to play. I know it's like you say, they're part time. They've all got careers. I have players who are in the building site or cutting grass or being front line. People in the government or whatever. Anyway, it's so hard and difficult to try and keep them focused for one, and trying to keep them fit and available for Saturdays week in week out. The Irish League's no, it's tough. It's Saturday Tuesday. The Champions is just as bad, but you're trying to compete then with full time teams now. A lot of them have got so good rehabilitation, strength conditioning coaches, the whole lot. Where my boys are eating a pizza and going back to work the next morning. It's so tough. Yes, there's no. I was able to attract, my whole recruitment was able to try and get the best part time players, and I was able to do that because they couldn't go full time. That was my big niche in the market, but it helped. It hampered me in other ways because you didn't have, you weren't able to go in and look at things and try and talk players through their mistakes or talk them through things, because you only had them basically. I had them an hour and a half, 2 hours on training pitch. Time you do your warm up, time you do your cool down, time you get on do your technical stuff on the pitch, you have very little 1-to-1 time. Where if you're a full time coach or you're a full time um, staff member, you can analyze things, you can have them 1-to-1s, you can do a lot of that. When you're running about a football club 24/7, which is a big benefit to them clubs, and people don't see that, but your 1-to-1 sessions with your players definitely can improve them without doubt, and you can get into them. You can get messages to them because, to be honest, some of them aren't that clever. So you need the 1-to-1 section to have a chat with them. So, no, that's a big massive thing that I would say between the difference between the part time stuff and the senior stuff.
Because when players are coming in young, that's a part of it is easy. It's all new to them. They're excited, and they've still got so much in their life is still yet to happen, But I think about players who might be 26, 27, 29, who part-time means that they're working 9 to 5, 5 days a week, or whatever days they work, and then they're coming in to train. That's another side job which takes up a load of their mental energy on, let's say, Tuesday, Thursdays for training, and then Saturday for the match. They are away from the family all day. Saturday they might be married, they might have kids. That's a big commitment to try and keep them focused. Is that almost that because then when they're maybe in their mid-30s, or they've got it all sorted and they're just focused on football, but is that the hard time to try and keep players on the track that this is what they want to do? Because there'll be so many other distractions where, here, that Irish League thing, don't worry about it, it's home life, it's everything else. Because I think of just myself recording the podcast, editing the podcast, going on Saturday on top of my other job. It's like, how do they keep everybody happy?
Yeah, it's hard. It's so hard. I think I didn't realize until I became a manager how hard it is. When you're a player, I think managers or coaches, what I try to do, I don't want my players coming out doing a day's work, coming to my football club and being dull and depressing. And I want to be a really happy place. I want people to come to training and really enjoy it. I want them all to get on really well. I didn't have any bad eggs in my change room. I wouldn't have it. If there was, they were straight out the door. I wanted everybody to get on, enjoy coming to work, i.e. football. And you could have the worst day in the office. You could have things going on in your personal life, which were awful, but you could switch off when you came to the football club. I think that's a massive thing that I try to do at the football when we were at Carrick. Um, it's draining, and I can say this as a manager now that's out of the thing. Um, you don't realise until you're out how much it takes out of you. You genuinely do not realise it's 24/7, and people say it's 10 months of the year. It's not. It's 24/7, 12 months a year. It's constant. It is, and it's as a coach or a manager, you're constantly dealing with issues. If it's board, if it's families, if it's players, if it's their families, if it's supporters, if it's the junior setup, if it's sponsorships, if it's anything whatsoever. There's always somebody at the football club has an issue. No, and I felt, and this is where I have learnt, I felt I had to take that all on board, do it all myself, because I just felt that that was part of my role. I think now looking back, I think I need to share that out a wee bit more, and that's not the best staff ever. No, guys who are really trusted, and I still trust guys who were unbelievable, and they were untested at the Premier League level as well. Um, when I took over, but it's so demanding, and you don't switch off. You can't enjoy a win. Like I say, you come on a Saturday night, you basically you're going straight and looking towards the next one. And if you get beat, you're coming home and you're grumpy, and your wife and your children aren't how happy with you. But you're sitting with a dog because the dog's the only one who wants to speak to you. But that's the job we're in. And you can look at it both ways. No, there's I think there's 10 full-time managers now in the Premier League. I have another job, another career. No, I didn't have to rely on the football job. They go really well for me to provide for my family. No, I've got a career that provides for my family. I want to be a football manager. I would love to be a full-time football manager, but I have to be realistic too. No, I've got a family and kids to look after. If I was a single man, it might be a different matter. It might need me in this country, and she knows it. But yeah, in a way I'm blessed because I've got a career, but it's just so demanding, and I needed a break at the end. Because I gave so much for 4 years that I needed a good refresh, and thankfully that's what I'm doing.
Is that a difficult conversation to have with players, in that you're looking out for them, and you're trying to say that because it is a short career, and there is a lot more time outside of football than in it, where you might say, look fella, you're going to be playing football here, it's great, I'm so happy to have you at this club, but don't let these years go by where you aren't planting the seeds for your future. Perhaps that's not something that you need to also worry about on top of your kids and your club and sponsorship and all the rest. Or is that a real conversation within the Irish League, or is it all football?
No, no, you have to be honest. I think honesty is the most important thing when you're talking to somebody. I think I'm looking at some of the players who I had last year who are out of contract now, and they've never known anything else but football, and they have nothing to fall back on, and you're generally concerned about, and you got to have them conversations. If you don't have them conversations or discuss that with them, then you're not doing your job. I don't think you're doing your job right. I think yes, you want to sign them, but you want to sign them for the right reasons. You want them to be you want them to be successful. You'll give them a platform to be successful, but you also have to be able. They also have to be aware of what the future holds, and how they're going to adapt their life after football. And if you don't have them conversations, I don't think you're doing your job.
You said managing a club, in your experience, can even be tough when you're winning, and you've had the broad spectrum, even just as your time when you were boss at Carrick. You go from one season where, in your time in charge, I think it's fair to say that you completely changed people's perspectives on the expectation people had on Carrick Rangers, on what stature club they were, what they could achieve, and you brought them to their highest ever finish within the league, points total as well. And we discussed there Dungannon getting into the top six. You were not that far away from doing that with the Amber Army, and then months later things change, it doesn't go well, and you're feeling a different kind of pressure with the club not winning games, and that then eventually resulted in your time at Carrick Rangers ending.
Yeah,
Can I ask, because since I've started this podcast, I've seen managers come and go, And when people are used to talking about football with their mates, they're saying, ah, that manager, you know, an English big millionaire manager is saying, ah, he needs to go, he's rubbish, or we need to get this, whatever. But when I have this conversation about managers doing well, not in this podcast, it's people like yourselves where so much of your livelihoods are really relying on this. How did you find that part of it, that pressure, and did you kind of sometimes wanna, when people like me are criticizing your team for something as well as praising them, did you want to crawl into your headphone or go through the paper and kind of give a good talking to journalists saying, I think you'll find actually that this is what I'm doing and this is, it didn't work out, but still you've got it wrong here.
No, listen, I've been in football way too long. That listen, I can give it out. Let's be honest with it. If you give it out, you got to be able to take it. I've got big, broad shoulders. I can't take it. What I did try to do, I tried to take a lot of it for the players. I think some was a wee bit unjust. I think we went from, like I said, like you say, we went from being seventh league highest place finish, everybody ranting and raving about you, to basically 4 or 5 months later being out of a job. That's football. It's bloody ruthless. Was I upset? No, at the time I needed out. I needed a break. My head was away. I tried way too hard and not getting anywhere. I felt things happened in the summer that I wasn't amused by or happy about. I think things went on behind the scenes, which was that I'm not going to talk about on here, but like I wasn't too fond of what was going on, and when I felt that I wasn't getting anywhere or some players weren't performing at the levels I thought, then I made it clear that I spoke to one of the owners that I got on really well with, and I asked them they try and help me, and basically went from there. No, I've done this. I spoke about this recently where I've done an interview after being really poor against Dungannon, where I didn't know myself. Um, and some people who I haven't spoken to in a long time who contacted me that evening saying, "Listen, you sort yourself out, basically." And I had a look at the interview, and I wasn't looking at my interviews at that time, but I looked at my interview on the BBC, and um, the wife said, "Listen, it's not good." And I had a look at it, and I was like, "That's me. No way. I've had enough here." So that was it. I felt at the time my staff were amazing. They tried to take a lot of flack. But this was ruthless. Like we went from 1 point and getting in the top six, finished in qualifying Europe. 5 months later, do I think I could have turned it around? Of course I could have. But at that time, I just didn't feel like I got enough back, and I just felt it was time for a change. And listen, in hindsight, it's probably the best thing. And listen, the club were great with me. No, there was no really amicable then. No, no, but the people who were giving grief out at the time, I'm sure they'd be looking back now and thinking what were they giving grief about. But listen, that's for them to talk about. That's not for me to judge anybody.
You've had plenty of time to reflect. Does the word regret crop up with any sort of decisions, or does managing a club, it's just constant decisions and you can't question every single one?
No, definitely not. No, definitely no regrets. Listen, I think if anybody who's involved in football looked at our time at Carrick, I think they'd be absolutely delighted. I don't care if you're David Jeffrey or Roy Coyle or Ronnie McFall or Stuart King. I think if anybody had done what we'd done, we went from being a team that finished 11th in the league who were had 6 points or six players, sorry, when I took over. They'd be finishing 1 point, top six, qualifying for Europe, highest points total ever, highest wins ever, highest goal scores ever the club's ever done. We broke every record the club could do. Like we brought in massive investment. That was down to me and my staff and my players. No, they wouldn't have invested if we hadn't been successful. And listen, look, we set up. I mean, that happened. It was, and it sets the club up for a long time. And I can go away really proud of it. Really, really happy. And at the end, it wasn't good. And listen, it takes so much, not just out of me. We're talking about family, and we're talking about my friends. You're going to work every Monday morning, and they're all at you because you were crap on Saturday. Your team was so poor on Saturday. But listen, that's football. That's what I talk about players now and talk about staff and talk about my own teams that I follow. That's football. I know what's about. I'm not trying to hide behind any of it. And you probably hear from the way I'm talking. I'm probably too honest sometimes for my own good.
Do you look around the league and worry, not knowing what contracts are being signed, but do you worry about the financial sustainability of some clubs in the league, or do you think it's something that's all part of the growth?
No, listen. I do know a lot of the contracts. um,
So with someone that doesn't know, right? Fans, because fans are sitting there pushing their clubs to do all these things, and we don't know, do they have the cash to do this? Is it the right thing to do? Is it? Are we years away from something scary?
it's clubs individually. Clubs need to look after their own selves. If they think it's viable, they do it. Then they should have the right people in charge. Every club should have the right person in charge who's making them decisions. Every manager in the country is going to try and send the best players, no matter what it costs, if they're doing a job right. So then it's up to clubs to say yes or no, or whoever is running the club in the background. No, I think every single manager will want to sign the best players. It doesn't matter what it's going to cost them because they want the best players in the team. If clubs run well, then there won't be a problem. If clubs aren't run well, then clubs will have to deal with that, and they're the ones who are running the clubs will be the ones who have to deal with it. I think that's the managers who get the flack for it, as they always do. But it's the chairman or the owner or the CEO or the directors, whoever's making that decision in the background, they're the ones that have to stand up and be counted when if something doesn't go well. And like I say, managers are always going to try and find the best players. That's their job.
Do you wish Stuart King, the player, was signing a contract in 2024 rather than 2004?
100%. 100%. I win in leagues and I'm getting a tenth of what these boys are getting.
Like genuinely, do you think from wages across the board, not counting all the big players that we can all talk about, the legends of the league, is some players compared to 20 years ago, and we all know inflation's in there, of course, is it significantly higher?
Yeah, it's night and day. It's night and day. Absolute night and day. But listen, they fully deserve everything. If clubs are willing to do it, then it's like, listen, the job I do, if someone's going to offer me a promotion and give me an extra whatever, of course I'm going to take it. Of course you're going to do it. No, that's football. It's a business. Football isn't. There's the loyalty in football's gone. No, back in the day, everybody wanted to sign for Linfield. Every single player in the country wanted to sign for Linfield. Well, 99% of the players in the country want to sign for Linfield. Now it's not like that. It's they've got families to look after. They've got careers that are very short, and they deserve everything that comes to them. And all credit to them. If two or three clubs want to come in for one player, then they're laughing. No, and that's what it is. No,
I don't know if there's a big difference between fans. We don't know what all fans think about every single discussion or debate point within the league. But what do you think many other managers and higher ups within Irish League football feel about some of the huge big touch point discussions of summer football, a full time league, maybe all Ireland? Do you think, from talking to the chairman and other managers, should fans expect movement on some of these things, or is it still very much up in the air?
no, I think I can't see. Just my own honest opinion. I can't see it being an All Ireland league. I can't see people getting up for European pitches. I can't see summer football could potentially, but then they're going to potentially lose Boxing Day. So what they're going to do with that? I think that's just too big a call. Um, yeah, I can see pros and cons for every one of them no items that you brought up there. As a part-time manager, do I want to give up my summer? No. As a full-time manager, am I willing to give up my summer? Yes, because the pitches are better and things like that. So it all depends on your club and players and what position they're in. I think summer football does suit full-time teams a lot better, especially teams going to Europe and stuff like that. I think the pitches are far better, etc., etc., etc. But does it suit the part-time players who have jobs, etc., etc.? No, but That's for another discussion altogether. You could be here all night talking about that. Like, to be honest with you.
This is perhaps a weird non-football question, but during your time as a player and as a frontline manager, you had this. Maybe you're aware of this, but you had this reputation for being quite dogged,
I thought they
combative.
were going to say quiet.
Well, exactly. We all know what you were like on the sidelines, and I imagine you'll continue to be. But I think one of the things that I got from the live show, which you were very graciously a part of, is the amount of people came up to me being like, and they've probably already come to this decision listening to this podcast and hearing you on the media recently, thinking, saying, I didn't think Stuart King was like that, you know, and I have the ability to talk to you behind the scenes because of me doing the radio and other roles. But do you find that strange that you have these two personas that people view you as? Maybe was it unfair?
No, no, not at all. No, I do go over the top sometimes. There's no, but you know what? I'm a winner. I do anything to win a game of football. That's me.
Like, did you enjoy the abuse? I've heard you get abuse from opposition fans, and I feel like you always took it with a wry
Yeah,
smile.
listen, that's pantomime, innit? It's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. Like, no. Now, you ask my wife about it or my kids about it. That's a totally different thing altogether. Like, but I can take it. You know, I've had it for 20 years playing. You know what I mean? There's no bother with it whatsoever. I actually quite enjoy it. I love a bit of banter. I do love it. I think it's a big part of the game. I think if you don't have that, you don't have that personality. I think and you're going to struggle. You know what I mean? You definitely if you don't take abuse well in the Irish League, then you're going to struggle in the Irish League. But yeah, listen, I'm just a normal guy, a guy who's worked hard and tried his best to be successful. And um, I think when people get to know me and have a pint with me or meet me in the street, and I can sit. I love talking football, as you probably know now listening to this. Um, I'm just a normal guy, you know, and I support my teams. I support Banbury's Town, support Everton, support Northern Ireland, and yeah, I love my football.
We'll not spend too much time looking ahead to the games in the future because we've got a big run of games happening on Tuesday. It might be in the past for you, and then how that impacts Saturday's games and the trophy lift of Linfield, we don't know. But there is some key questions going into this split. One of them's around Cliftonville and how they'll approach it. I think one thing we talked about in the podcast last week was the question, how does seventh matter if a team below seventh wins the Irish Cup? I got sent it on I want to say a big shout out to Brian Hutchinson, who did what I should have just done straight away and looked at the rules. I'm pretty much, no matter what happens, seventh will, unless it's Cliftonville and they win the cup, seventh will be a part of the playoff. We'll have game A, a quarter final between sixth and seventh. Then we'll go through it where the winner of that will play against third, and then fourth and fifth will play off against each other. So seventh still means anything. So from a Cliftonville point of view, how do you approach these next games? Because you're currently sitting in seventh on goal difference, and the teams below you, the only thing they've got to fight for is finishing seventh.
Some will have to win their games. Simple as.
But the worst thing they could do is a heel or Gormley leg break in a game against Loughgall that doesn't matter with 3 weeks beforehand.
Oh, don't be saying that. You can't go in that attitude. They have to finish seventh. They have to get in that European playoff place. They can't go in. They have 50-50 game week on Ghana thinking they have that's the only thing they can play for the rest of the year. They have to finish seventh. They have to. They're probably so disappointed they're not in the top six. But if they don't finish in seventh place, then they'll be devastated. No, they've got to be in that contention to get a European game at the end of the year. You have to go on that. And you know, Sean, if it's very easy sell for Jim and Jordan as a manager.
Play in the cup final.
You play well, you play in the cup final. Simple as. I remember David doing it with us, David Jeffrey doing it with us. If you play well, and I remember the last game of the season we played home town and the Irish Cup final gets poured down a few weeks later, and every single one of us ran through a brick wall that day because we knew we wanted to play in the Irish Cup final a couple of weeks after, and it's an easy sell for Jim. It's an easy sell. You just, if you just want to take a mess about in training, not put in on the Saturday, not perform on the Saturday, then you're going to lose your cup final place. and no one's going to do that.
And for Linfield, where you're not in the cup final, you've got 5 of these games where you win, lose, or draw, doesn't really matter. Healy has a decision to make in what he does with his squad, how he, because it's a bit of a European prep as well. We've even seen them with signings that they've made. They are now in prep mode for um, whoever they may face in early July, maybe even earlier than that when it comes to Europe. If from a player's point of view, is there bonuses to be won here? Is there like appearance fees to still be earned? Or
Yeah, there's all that. There's all that, but I think that Liberty's such a professional outfit. I think their standards are through the roof. So I generally can't see him letting boys off of having a 5 week early holiday, if that's what you want to call it. I think that he might blood some of the younger players and give them more game time. He might try to develop them and see what they're like against better opposition. Um, but I think the whole club's that professional that them guys will take over like and get results. I still think they'll get results and even though the other clubs are fighting for positions to get into the European playoff or if they're seeded or not, I still can see Linfield winning games and being really professional.
second is the huge prize because there's an automatic European place up for grabs, and the money that comes with some teams have budgeted with the idea that they are going to get one of these places, and if you're not, and we don't, Dungan and Cliftonville, they can miss out on Europe by not going their way. So for these sides, it's going to be a real battle because third opens up this gauntlet. I call it. It's almost a lottery that you have to just win these games. Obviously, third is the real benefit because it means the path to Europe runs through your home ground. We have Larne with 5 games to go, sitting atop the pile on goal difference, 54. Glentoran on 54, 2 goals behind. Swifts on 50, Crusaders on 50, and the informed team in the league, Coleraine, in 6th there, 5 points off. At this stage, because you're playing each other, there's big swings
Yeah,
to be had. Is this because they're sitting up there, Lawrence to lose?
I
And do
think.
you back them?
Oh, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. That's not sitting on the fence. I think any one of them teams, any one of them, realistically, can every week the swings are going to be so crazy. If one game, one team beats one team versus 3 point swing straight away, it'll make massive difference week in week out. Where if you can go down a run of games of winning games, then you're going to be in a really good position. They finish second is such a prize. No, it's not having a lottery off a playoff where you're playing a couple of games to get in to get your European prize. Everybody will be all out now. All out for each other. The games are going to be top drawer. And listen, I'm doing the Lauren Dungannon game tomorrow night or on Tuesday night, and it's huge because Dungannon can go 1 point behind Lauren after if they beat Lauren on Tuesday, and it's so big.
Coleraine can pull back Glentoran as well. Coleraine have to go up to the Oval. I've seen Coleraine a few times, and there's moments where they really sparkle and they look a step above some other teams. We've seen them go to Windsor Park and win in recent weeks, and then there's times where they're letting silly goals go against them in that 2-2 draw with Cliftonville. I think they've improved massively across the entire from the back line to the front. I think you're going to do that when you bring in Dunn and Ives and
Exactly.
Doherty and all the rest. But they're gelling, and the prize is clear because if they win out on Tuesday, that's 52 points, and they'll be 2 points behind Glentoran no matter what. But in turn, there's a chance here for Glentoran on the Tuesday evening to win that game in their home patch and go back down you go, Corey, and that's your season done and dusted, fellas.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And you're right when you say about Glen or Korean. No signings have definitely raised the standards of that football club. No, the performances have got better. The standard of the players got better. And when you bring in better players, everybody at the club has to raise their game if they want to get a game. They know who's coming in the summer. They know there's better players coming in the summer. They know if they want to be part of this revolution, if that's what you want to call it, or new team or whatever. They have to perform to get results. It's a it's another big game. Like Glentoran win it, like you say, it kills any momentum Korean has, and it probably knocks their aspirations for finishing second totally out the window. So yeah, big game. And it's not going to be easy. Korean going up there either.
And the team that everyone continues to forget about is the Crews. They got their space in the top six in the end. That draw with Loughgall feels like such a weird outlier because since January, bar two losses to Linfield, they have been impeccable result wise. Disappointment in the cup, of course, against Cliftonville, but they're staying strong, getting goals. The experience is helping them along the way, and they just game by game got Linfield on Tuesday. Then they take on Larne at home. Like all of these teams, destiny's within their own hands. I think the Crews are just happy to be here and will give it a good go as the team that last season won out in the gauntlet of Europe, but they, out of everybody, feel like the dark horses where perhaps they'll be underestimated and have been there, done that in the
Yeah,
situation.
Declan deserves massive credit. There's a period of time where I think they were 10th in the league, and I'm sure he was really doubting everything that he was doing. So since the turn of the year, they've been outstanding. Yeah, they got beat by Clifton in the cup, but I actually thought they did quite well that day too. After a period of time, so yeah, he's done remarkably well. First season in charge, he's got them in the top six. Everybody was questioning because they were losing players and potentially the money had dried up or whatever. But what he's done at that football club has been really really good, and it's been a brilliant first year for him. Um, he'll be relishing it. No, who wouldn't be? If you're a young manager, first season in the league, and you've got 5 games against the top six, like what more do you want as a young manager? And you could no listen. If it doesn't go well, he'll learn from it. If it does go well, he'll love it because he'll feed off it, and he'll be able to um, potentially attract better players next year.
Some people might forget that you actually had 6 years as boss at Banbridge before you took that big step up to Carrick. You, like Declan, won championships in this league. You, like Declan, came in with a bit of managerial experience, him with the youth. But stepping up, what was the real welcome to the top flight moment as a manager? What's the thing that you learn first is the hardest part of being boss? Is it getting these players, hey, look, I'm the man in charge and you listen to me, or what is it?
It took a bit of time. It took a bit of time. I think that they knew who I was and they knew what I'd done previously, but I don't think they were that players were that um, believed that I was going to be a successful manager or not. They hadn't seen that. No disrespect to Banbridge, which was an amazing learning experience. Doing everything at a club, absolutely everything. Was the best learning experience that I could have done. Honestly, it was so good. No, and you're talking about amateur players, or whatever, but then trying to run a club and the issues and the problems and the things that went on with that was brilliant learning for me, and I'll never forget about it. But then going into a change room, which I actively recruited players that have been there and done it who were experienced, and I think that was the biggest thing that I done when I came straight in. I think signing Jim Irwin was massive for me. No, he really helped with the change room. David Cushley, Albert Watson, no, Andrew Mitchell, people like that there. No, Curtis Allen. No, that's five. And I probably forgot about another five, but that's five real top end players who helped me out so much. And I was able to do my coaching with my assistant Scott. I was able to get on the pitch, and if there was issues, then the senior player dealt with a lot of it. And if it had to come to me, then it did come to me. But I think that I was just trying to earn their respect on the training pitch and earn um, basically the authority didn't really come with it. It was just I had to perform to them too. I had to be just so good. And then they started to believe, and that's when the results started to come because they all bought into everything that I was trying to do.
Neck on the line then, who do you feel has the gusto to see out this 5 match selection and claim second.
Oh, that's a
We-
tough one. Yeah,
Weirdly, the Glens looked really good to it until their form fell off a cliff in the past month.
yeah. I thought Glenn's had it wrapped up. To be honest with you, about a month ago, I really did. And listen, Lorna sitting in second, and I genuinely don't think they've performed anywhere near the standards that they can perform at. So I think Jenny after this first game, you'll see where people are. Oh, that's a tough one. I'm going to say Dungannon. I'm just going to say they're going to go. They're going to do exactly the same. Rodney will play the exact same card as what Jim's going to play. He's going to say you got to perform. They play in the cup final. I think they're going to go on a run and they're going to get the results because every single player at that football club is going to try and play to their highest standard. So they make sure they've got a starting position in that Irish cup final.
Pressure's off, and there's an argument outside of Coleraine that the Swifts have the most potent attacking line. Big tall Mitchell, the nippiness of McGovern. Galvin came on. I mean, that's a player who I thought was going to have a big season through injury and all the rest. Didn't have it, but he came on and hit the post on Saturday night. So they will have nothing to lose. It'll all depend on that game that can be seen streamed between them and Larne. They have a good record against Larne, but they'll need to use that home advantage there in a big spot, and it's because it's so tight. It can move so quickly. Button turn teams like the Cruise and Coleraine and Dungannon, they're there, they're touching it, but a loss it can put them completely out of it. This is not a time for draws, the kind of that to nick by. You've got to make your wins count, and any loss you're giving vital points to an opponent. It's hard for me to predict. There's something about this Coleraine side that they do have goals and they have won in big moments that they can rise through the centre, but it's a 5 point swing is the only thing. If you give them one more win along the way, they could have been golden, but it's very hard to predict. The other things there sitting to predict is this race for 7th, where Cliftonville 46, Ports 46, Ballymena 43. They'll be kicking themselves that loss against Loughgall, but they can still turn it around with a couple of fixtures. The one team that sit there, we'll get to the relegation battle in a second, that are pretty much the lame duck side in all of this is Glenavon. They'll take it rather than being in the stress, but they were probably a win or two away with from being in what would have been a huge turnaround and going for 7th. An ex-team of yours Tuesday night, pour down Glenavon. I'm sure that the top tier or the top brass of Portadown are wiping away their tears of not getting in the top 6 with a home game against Glenavon.
Yeah, listen, Paddy, he'd be devastated. Like, listen, he's done remarkable. What he's done and what he's achieved, and they're sitting now really comfortable. But he'd be absolutely devastated that their form sort of drift a wee bit there at the end, where he's not now in the position where he's still fighting for 7th. This is a derby game. Portadown are fighting for 7th, which will be unbelievable for Niall and his staff. But I think Glenavon will look at it now. They'll look I think he'll try a few things. I think if Paddy's a smart guy. He's a really good coach manager. I think he'll try different things now. And try to improve for next season. Do I think he'll do it against Portadown the Derby again? I definitely do not. But I do think that he will use his time, because these are the games that will mean a lot to other clubs. But he will be able to throw in players to see if they can play at this level and perform when needed to.
And of those three, if we're just looking at Ballymena, Portadown, Cliftonville, Portadown have the one quirk where they've actually got 4 home games, and they have been one, if you're talking about a table just based on home form, they're high up. A table they're not high up in is the overall form table, just 1 win in the last 5. A bit of momentum's been lost for Portadown, and maybe the goals have as well. You're still back in Cliftonville across those matchups?
Yeah, the only like I say, the exact same as Dungan. I think it's because they can play off by saying the players will be at a standard where they won't be sitting back No, they want to perform because they want to get and play in that Irish Cup final. I think Portadown have been immense. I think Ned deserves massive credit. I think they've really kicked on and improved this year. He's recruited well from down south. He's recruited well with some of those players that he brought in, but I genuinely think Nay would have snapped your hand off at the start of the season. I know he'd be disappointed. I know he'd be annoyed. I think Portadown fans will be disappointed in a way, but I think when they sit back at the start of the season, someone has said you'd be sitting in the eighth now, just after split. I think every single down fan that's realistic would have took that.
19 points. They are off 11th. That's a big points swing there, and the team sitting there is your ex-crew, Carrick. By Wednesday morning, this relegation battle could be done and dusted. People feel as though it's been done and dusted for a long time. The search for the new Loughgall boss is over. It's Darren Murphy comes in from Finn Harps. Obviously, a lot of Irish League experience across the board. Dungannon, he's been in a number of other backroom teams as well. I'm sure his local petrol station will feel the pain of him not having to drive to Donegal every day from Mid Ulster. But hey, here's a win for the for the planet. I guess. I mean, that's a lot of people are looking you with that job, but look, Loughgall come in, and I don't think the expectation for him is to get safety for them. That's a bit of a start now and give it a go next year. However, big swing potentially. If Carrick lose on Tuesday and Loughgall win, have that many wins this year, only 4 across the board, it's only 6 points. It would take really something miraculous for Loughgall to be playing top 5 football next season, but on Murphy, that's a steady set of hands there.
Yeah, listen, Murph's a friend of mine. He's left a job in the first division in Ireland. He come close to home for whatever reason, family reasons, whatever. He lives close to the ground. It's a real good gig for Murph. Sorry, Darren Murphy. It's a real good gig for him. He's, like you say, steady hands. He's been there, done it. He's as a player and as a manager. No, he knows the league inside out, and I think he'll do great. I think I will say that the previous Loughgall manager was outstanding what he done at the football club too. By the way, Dean Smith. But I think Murph will do great. I don't think there's no doubt about that. I think it's a step too far or too late for him to come in and turn it around. I genuinely believe that. I can't see him changing that swing. I think Darren's realistic in that as well, knowing the conversations we've had, but he'll still give it a go, put it that way. He will give it everything to make sure one Loughgall give it everything to try and stay in the league, but also he's going to be there now for quite a long time, and the players, he'll want the players to show what they're all about. So going forward and planning for next year, then he can look at what they've done in the time he's been at the club.
Yeah, just for those who don't know, the points difference currently is 9, 5 games to go, 15 points left. So if Loughgall were to lose, Carrick were to win, that would be 12 points, 4 games to go, only 12 points left. But the goal difference is astronomical, where it's almost at 1 extra point on top of that. So huge swing. But hey, never say never, but feels very, very likely.
Yeah, I think Darren would love to get the second last game, knowing rightly that they're playing Carrick and they're still only a chance. I think that would be an exciting game to go and watch. But I still think it's too much.
5 points. I don't know if I can work out, but 5 points difference going into Carrick Loughgall penultimate game would be
crazy.
bonkers.
Yeah, definitely.
So with that all being said, like the games on Tuesday are the Swifts Larne, Glentoran Coleraine, Linfield Cruise, then it's Ballymena Loughgall. Like I think I said a number of weeks ago there, this is a repeat of those games, Ballymena Loughgall and Carrick Cliftonville of the final pre-split games. Portadown against Glenavon at Shamrock Park. That's a bit of a tasty fixture there. Then Linfield Glens on Saturday. 1 o'clock start, so nice and early for there. And then the Saturday games, Coleraine host Dungannon. Excellent game that could be, with so much still potential on the line. Crews host Larne, Portadown go up to Taylor's Avenue. Carrick still fighting for their, well, at least finishing 11th. It is totally off the cards. I don't know why. Well, it's 12 points, so maybe Glenavon capitulation there. It could all swap round, but again, goal difference isn't good. I don't think anybody's really talking about that. Cliftonville, Ballymena at Solitude, and then Glenavon, Loughgall at Mornview Park. That, if it is to be Carrick and looks likely going up against the second place team in the championship, that's just such a tough fixture for both sides, whoever the other side may be it the Welders, Limavady, some mad run from Diana.
You wouldn't want to be in it. Genuinely, you would not want to be in it. And listen, it's my old team, and I'm not going to be too harsh on here, but I generally every single year was we've got to finish 10th at least, and then we build on it. And that was me the first year. Like, we'll get 10th. Let's see if we can get 10th, and we'll build and build and build and see and try and get better. Listen, it's been terrible. It's been awful. They haven't scored enough goals. And then when they haven't scored goals, they're conceding. And listen, their actual defensive record's been actually okay, but it's been the way that they've been set up. But they haven't. They have goal scorers in the team. They have players of high quality who can score goals. They've got Danny. They've got Ned. They've got Paul Heatley. Players who've done it, been there and done it, and scored goals, but they just haven't done it this year for whatever reason. And then, like you say, one mistake and they're getting beat 1-0. They haven't scored enough goals. They be competitive at all. And listen, there's a hell of a lot of good people at that football club. There's a hell of a lot of good people. There's a lot of volunteers, a lot of people behind the scenes who do so much that nobody knows about. And they don't get any credit they deserve. And I generally hope they get the result they need, because, like you say, it's not going to be easy, because the Welders are a hell of an outfit. Limavaddy's a hell of an outfit. Emma McGugan's left Carrick to go and sign for Limavady. That's a story to be told too.
Isn't that tasty?
That just doesn't sit right with me at all either. By the way, and I'm not taking away from the Anna either, because the Anna at home's not an easy game either. So listen, Stephen's been there, done it. Stephen should be. He'll know how to play it. He'll know how to get the best out of his players. But I wouldn't like to be in his shoes, put it that way.
And then, just as we wrap this up, a team I would also associate you with is Newry. It's you used to go down to a lot of their games. I remember you speaking about there, and a bit of bother as well. And they've got 5 games to save their own beacon in the championship. That's been a difficult drop down of leagues for them.
Yeah, listen, I've got a real soft spot for them. My family, my in-laws live in the Warpoint Road near, right across the road from the football ground. I'm good friends with Darn and some of the people behind the scenes at Newry, and I go to most of their games because they're Friday nights. And they found themselves in a real sticky position. Darn's took over mid-year, but he's lost big players. They've moved on for whatever reason, and Newington seemed to have picked up a few results. They obviously beat Dundell at the weekend, and they beat the Welders recently too, which are 2 massive results for them when they're fighting relegation. So listen, Newry have got 5 games to turn it around. With every faith, Darren will be able to do it, but it's not going to be easy, because Newington are a real dogged team, and they seem to pick up results when they need to at business ends this season.
Stuart, it's been a delight to have you on this week, as well as having you part of the live show that you're at. Thank you so much for all of that. Many people, you're enjoying your time in the media. I know that. You've also got your own work. How do you then balance your next foray into football management? Some people in your position say, "Oh, it has to be," but if it doesn't come, it doesn't come. At what point do you think you'll get that itch where it's like, I've got to give it a go somewhere?
No, I definitely will. Listen, I've really enjoyed my time. There's been a few phone calls and a few conversations whatsoever, but listen, I've got plenty of wee trips booked between now and June, so nothing was going to happen, and I promised the family nothing was going to happen prior to the start of this next season. So listen, I hope to get back in. I'm not fishing for anyone's job. I hate that whole thing. Every time a job comes up, my phone goes crazy. And people seem to link me with everything, but it's not the way I am at all. I will go in, I will help somebody out, or I will manage. It doesn't matter what I do, but yes, I'm a football guy. No, if it, I still love playing with my mates on a Thursday night. No, the old lads. So I'm enjoying that as well. So
Are
listen,
you a five-a-side champion, are you?
over 40s, 5 state champion. No, listen, I will do. There's no doubt about it. I love football, but I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm definitely going to get a job, because that's not the way I am at all. If it happens, it happens. Happy days, but we'll just play it by ear.
Stuart, we'll continue listening to you on the radio, and I look forward to chatting to you sometime down the road. At this time of the season, I'll probably be asking, hey, what about Manager of the Year, Player of the Year? They're kind of sewn up, aren't they?
Listen,
Or have you got a wild card to throw it out there?
The Manager of the Year, there's only two in it. Like what Davis achieved, and being 22 points clear before splits, absolutely ridiculous. It's unheard of. But Rodney's been phenomenal this year. So listen, it's one of them too. But yeah, it's it made the best man win, put it that way.
And then Coops for a player.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I've spoken to some
Did I just say that? Coops for, I don't
I know you get tortured for that. But
Mr. Cooper.
Some of the Limpy fans are even saying that young Matthew Orr has been no.
Well, there's young players sewn up as well.
He's been the best player at Linfield, never made the best young player in the league. So listen, if you're going to take it away from Coops or Joel, as I would say, then you deserve to win player of the year.
There's so much I feel like I could talk to you about now, but Stuart, you've given me loads of time. Thank you so much for that. Until next time, I'll see you soon, and all the best.
Cheers, thank you.
If you enjoyed that, and I hope you did, you can follow this podcast on a variety of platforms: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter being the main ones. If you look for Kicking Match, all one word, that's a great place to get involved. Join in the following club there. Get loads of updates if you happen to want them. But if you want the latest on when this podcast is up, brilliant way to do that, especially on Spotify. If you go to the main page, the main profile of this Kick and Match podcast, you'll find a wee bell that gives you notifications every time I upload it. It means you don't have to check in on Tuesdays. Is it up now? Is it later? It will give you a wee ping. I'll say, hey, it's up. Listen to it. Have a good time. Thanks for listening to this one, and enjoy whatever games you may be going to over this next 7 days. Until the next time I'm speaking to you down this magical device of a speaker, I'll chat to you very, very soon.